week 9 of the fantasy basketball season, and here's a few forwards I will look to try to buy low or trade for this week. The first guy is Paul George of the Los Angeles Clippers. So George, he's been out the last few games now with the foot injury, and a lot of guys, they've been banged up or hurt the last couple weeks now here in fantasy basketball and around the NBA on the season. George, he's ranked 40th in fantasy basketball, 24.4 points a game, 6.2 rebounds, 5.5 assists a game, 1.2 steals, 3.8 threes a game, 90% from the foul line, 50% from the field for Paul George. So Paul George, he's having a great year. Like I mentioned, he's hitting threes, he's shooting the basketball well, and it was a revenge season for Paul George. But he hasn't played now since February 3rd, and Paul George owners, they're probably getting frustrated. George, he's known to miss at least 15, 20 games a season. He just never could play a full season as George. And obviously the Los Angeles Clippers, they're a deep team. They're playing well, and they're not going to rush George back, I believe, anytime soon right now. So if there's a Paul George owner in your league who's frustrated, like I mentioned, and he's willing to give up Paul George for a discount price, this is the time to go get him before George comes back and he plays great and puts up monster numbers. But this is the best time to get him with the injury. He's missed 2.5 weeks already, and now, while his value's at its lowest, it's time to buy Paul George low. The next forward I'd look to buy low or trade for this week's Kyle Kuzma of the Los Angeles Lakers. We've seen that Anthony Davis is out now 2 to 3 weeks with the calf strain, but I believe it'll be longer than that for Davis. And Kyle Kuzma now, he's been playing bigger minutes since Davis has gone down, and over the last few weeks, even before that, his minutes have bumped up. Is Kuzma. So on the season, he's ranked 191 with 10.5 points a game, 6 rebounds, 1.1 assists, 1.7 threes a ball game, 61% from the line, which is awful, and 45% from the field. The last 2 weeks, his ranking is 116 Kuzma, 13.9 points a game, 7 rebounds, 1.6 assists, 1.6 threes a ball game, 54% from the foul line, and 49% from the field for a ranking for 116 is Kuzma. So Kuzma, we know he could score the basketball. His three-point shooting's definitely improved, and now with Anthony Davis out, his shot attempts are going to go up. The plays drawn up for him and the ball being in his hands are going to be up as well. In the last few games, he's played pretty decent as Kuzma. February 12th versus Memphis, 20 points, 10 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, 2 threes, 57% from the field. February 14th in Denver, the game where Anthony Davis went down and left early, 19 points, 8 rebounds, an assist, a 3, 66% from the field. And then February 16th at Minnesota, it was a down game for Kuzma, 7 points, 4 rebounds, an assist, and a 3. So many people, they don't like Kyle Kuzma for whatever reason, but I think he's a good ball player, and he's owned in 62% of fantasy leagues, so he's out there in still a decent amount of leagues at 38%, but his ownage has definitely jumped up the boards by 23% in the last couple days now with the Davis injury. He's going to play, I believe, 35 minutes a game with Davis on the shelf with the calf strain, and he's a guy that could create his own shot. He could shoot the catch-and-shoot three-pointer, and I think he's a guy you could definitely go out there, and you don't got to break the bank for Kuzma. Like I said, a lot of people don't like him. He's been inconsistent most of the season this year in fantasy, but now with a bigger role coming on for Kuzma, this is a good time to go out there and get him, especially after he had a bad game versus Minnesota before he blows up and really has a good next month or two where Davis is going to be out. The next forward I would look to trade for or buy low is Andrew Wiggins of the Golden State Warriors. Wiggins, he's been on the buy low list a few times this season, and he's an underrated ball player, is Wiggins. Obviously, a lot of hype around him coming out in the NBA draft years ago, and then the Cavs flipping him and trading him for Kevin Love. On the season, he's ranked 100th, is Wiggins, with 17.5 points a game, 4.8 rebounds, 2.1 assists, 0.7 steals a game, 1.9 threes a game, an awful 67% from the foul line, and 46% from the field. And in the last 2 weeks, his rankings dropped as well to 141 in the time span with 17.6 points a game, 4.8 rebounds, 1.9 assists, 1.8 threes. The numbers have been similar, and 46% from the field. So his numbers have pretty much stayed up to par, is Wiggins, the last few weeks. But a lot of fantasy owners, just like Kuzma, they're not big Andrew Wiggins guys, and they'll look to trade him, and they're not going to ask much for him, in my opinion, is Wiggins. But Wiggins on Golden State, he's the second option right now behind Steph Curry, who's having a magical season this year. And Wiggins, the last few games, he's been pretty good, though. February 13th versus Brooklyn, 17 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks. February 15th versus Cleveland, 15 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals. And last night versus Miami, he had a good one, 23 points, 8 rebounds, but the 6 turnovers is bad right there with 4 3-pointers made. So Wiggins, he's improving his shot. His rebounding as well this season has gotten a little better, and even his field goal percentage has jumped up a little this year than the last couple seasons. Last year he was 44%. This year he's 47%. So Wiggins, he's more efficient. He's a little more consistent, but the only thing that's dropped for him is his points per game. But when you got an elite scorer like Steph Curry, your scoring load is obviously going to go down. But Wiggins, he's definitely a buy low candidate, and I don't see you breaking the bank trade for him. The next forward's Kevin Durant of the Brooklyn Nets, and Kevin Durant, just like Paul George, it's an injury type of thing. And Durant this season, there's been a few weeks on and off where he's had to miss games because of protocols. Now he's got the hamstring injury, and we'll see how that hamstring injury could heal after he was out last season with the torn Achilles. So we'll see if he's in good shape still, and I think he will be, but this is a time to buy him low while he's got a little bit of an injury. Obviously, his price is still going to be high, but it's going to be a little lower, I expect, than it was when he was playing. So Kevin Durant, like I said, he's out with the hammy injury. He's been out with the protocol after they pulled him from a game earlier. And Durant on the season, he's been a monster, and he hasn't missed a beat. I thought it would take time for Durant to get back into shape, get back into the movement of things. But he's proved me wrong and many people wrong on the season. 29 points a game, 7.3 rebounds, 5.3 assists, 1.5 blocks a game, 2.6 threes, 86% from the foul line, 52% from the field. And Durant, he's ranked 10th this season in fantasy basketball. And this guy, he's the number one man over there in Brooklyn. I know they got Harden, I know they got Irving, but Kevin Durant, you know, he's something special. And he's one of the best players in the game today, and maybe of all time when it's all said and done for Kevin Durant. And now he's been out, like I said, since February 13th, and he's missing tonight's game and a huge showdown and possibly an NBA Finals preview versus the Los Angeles Lakers. But the reports came out early in the week he was going to miss 2 or 3 games with the hamstring injury. So I think Durant, he'll come back February 21st. But if for whatever reason he's out there on the trading block and the Durant owner, he's just frustrated with him being in and out of the lineup a lot this season, this is the time where his value's low and you could go get him for maybe a little bit of a discount. I know it's a little bit of a stretch, but it's definitely something to think of if you want to get Kevin Durant on your team and try to get him on a little bit of a discount. And the 5th and final forward I would look to try to get or buy low this week in a trade is Kawhi Leonard. Same situation as Kevin Durant. Kawhi Leonard of the Los Angeles Clippers, what a season he's having. Ranked number 6th in fantasy basketball. 27 points a game, 5.9 rebounds, 5 assists, 1.8 steals, 1.9 threes, 87% from the foul line, and 51% from the field. But Leonard now, he's missed the last 3 games as well with his injury, so he hasn't played since February 12th. And that leg injury, we know he's had leg problems throughout his career, and the knee issues is Kawhi Leonard. So Leonard, I think they're going to give him an extended break. I could see Leonard not come back until February 23rd, which is still another 6 days away. So Leonard, he's been consistent this season in playing a lot of games. He only missed a few games early in the year after he got elbowed in the mouth and needed stitches. But Leonard, he's an absolute monster. But this is the thing with him, load management and the little injuries that go along with playing a grueling NBA season. And just like in the Kevin Durant situation, he's a player, you're still going to have to pay a top price for him, but maybe you could get him on a little bit of a low before he comes back from the injury, because once he comes back from the injury and puts up the numbers he puts up, his value will be obviously at an all-time high. So right now, while his value's a little bit down and low, this is the time to go try to get Kawhi Leonard if you want him on your fantasy team. So that's a few forwards I would look to buy low or trade for this week in week 9 of the fantasy basketball season.